that song.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
episode 1643. Hello, I'm Mike Matthews here at 1643 and Mike's Daily Podcast, located somewhere in Podcaster Valley at Cafe Anyway, the last place on earth. Today, we hear from John Deere, the engineer, Floyd the Floorman, Chely Shoehart, and I get to some big news and stuff.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
The world. We look at the world for what it is, for what it has become, and some
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Interesting facts. Hey, do you know a salesperson? Do they drive you nuts? Do you think they're dumb? Do you think, hey, they have no screw pills? Do you also like their lapels? Do you sometimes go, what the heck? I don't know.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I don't know if I have what it takes to be a salesman or woman. I just don't seem to
Mike's
have that
Daily Podcast
in me.
Yeah!
My lovely lady friend was telling me about a band called, is it Reese? What, Rye? Where the guy's voice sounds just like a woman's. I'm going to try and... Nope, I don't have it. Okay, maybe I'll have that for the next show. Recently, I was telling you I had a podcast picture. Oh, look who just walked in. That had this person in it. Hello, Mike. This is John Deere, the engineer. Yes, I was in your cartoon recently. And this is Floyd the Floorman. You guys, I just wanted to mention that, yeah, we did have a Rye. Is that what it is? Oh yeah, Rye is a great band. It's got a guy who sounds just like a woman. Look who else walked in, speaking of women.
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, gift shop supervisor. I just want to say that I'm really happy that I'm here, and I just want to say that.
All right. I just want to say thank you. I just want to say. That's what we're saying is I just want to say. And that the graduation gridlock or the Gradlock is driving me nuts. It was so bad yesterday that somebody actually ran into a parked car just up the street for me. It makes no sense.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Oh, I gotta drive to graduation and... No, okay, I'll just leave that car and drive away. Oh, here's my driving away sound. Okay, I can do a little bit better. This is Rye. Alright, if you played that for me today, just now, right now, if you just played that for me, I'd go, that's a woman singing. That's a guy! So apparently their music is getting played on like NPR shows and stuff. The NPR when they come back from break and stuff. So that's Rye. R-H-Y-E. E. Hey, okay, so, wait, what? Stormy Daniels sues ex-lawyer saying he colluded with Michael Cohen. Former adult movie star Stephanie Clifford, otherwise known as Stormy Daniels, sued her former lawyer on Wednesday, alleging he served the interests of President Donald Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, instead of his clients. The $130,000 hush money thing, as you recall. To which Trump has said,
wrong.
But, yeah. Okay. And then also, Comey's... Fox News first, it says. Comey's new scrutiny. Mystery illness afflicts Americans in China. Rudy Giuliani. Kim begged for a summit. Uh-huh. Okay. And then there's... Okay. I want to say okay, and I just want to say that we got this sales guy at one of the places I work at who has no scruples, who just leaps over protocol that, all right, he's been in the radio business for a long time. He would think he would know better. You would think he would know better. He does not, and just does things that are, well, it's like if you are on the radio, you try to have a bit of a wall between the salespeople. You need sales because otherwise you don't get your paycheck, because if it's not for them selling airtime, you see, I don't have anyone that does that for me on the podcast. Thus, the podcast is completely, it does not, well, it doesn't pay for itself. I pay for it. I pay for the website is the big expense. But if I had a good salesperson that was selling airtime for me, getting me all that political money from the elections that were just happening, I could have got some of that cash. But no, I did not. So, but sometimes I get a little tenacious and they go, hey, I just got you this client. Why don't you just go ahead and talk about them on your show? And you're, well, wait a minute. Did we promise that person that? Did we promise that client that? No, we'll just add it as they call it, it's like bonus. You get bonus, you get added value is what they call it. Oh, and that term, I've always hated that term in radio. It has caused radio stations to go bankrupt because people promise added value, or they just throw in added value. And at some point, where does that end? It does not. It has no borders, added value. It does not. And so that's what gets all murky and crappy in the radio biz, is the added value. And business people they promise that added value to the clients, and then they try to push it in the friendliest of ways on the people on the radio side, on the air side, on the when the tires meet the road side of radio. And it's very bizarre. And that's a little, I just pulled the curtain back and showed you a little bit of the radio world, and I hope you enjoyed it. Added value. Ugh. Okay, speaking of radio, I have told you before about the completely restless, unruly children that I babysit. They do a show, a 25-minute show. It's only 25 minutes long. And they come on. And they didn't really know anything about radio when they walked in. They knew a lot about other things. They knew a lot about business, which it's a business radio station, so that's good. They knew a lot about, one of them worked in the concert industry. And they have, over the 2 years that I've worked with them now, they've been able to pull together a pretty good radio show. And I'm very impressed. They had Ro Khanna on recently, a local politician in the House of Representatives, a congressman who you've probably heard of. He's on NPR quite a bit, always talking about Silicon Valley concerns. Not the biggest Trump fan, keeps him on his toes. And Ro Khanna, who knew he may be president someday. Who knows? It could happen. But one of the guys on this show wants to be on my podcast, and I am actually thinking that's a great idea, because you've heard me talk bad about concerts, about how I'm anti-concert. I think it's all a big Vegas act. I think you see those musicians on stage, most of the time they're all drugged up. They don't want to be there. And they don't want to give you, they just want to give you a show. Some of them have been doing it so long, they just want the money and go. This is just something they do and they go. And it's just a job. And it's all by rote. And some of them put everything in it, yeah. Some of them, oh my God, they have these great moments on stage where it's just an utterly, like you've never seen a performance like that. And they'll tell you later, oh, that was a good night. And I've talked to some singers who can remember specifically what happened at a concert and go, oh yeah, night we were playing outside, there was a moon, the moon was full, like they know. But and my whole point is the expense that concerts have reached, and the fact that when people go to especially a big headline type concert, I'm all about supporting local bands. That's why the interviews on MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com, which you can go to and help out the show through the Amazon link. If you're going to buy anything on Amazon, go through MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com first and look for that link. And then there's also the PayPal if you'd like to help us out. I just wanted to say that. But the local bands, I support them. The local creativity, the struggling, just getting started out bands, that's great. Support them. The local bands, support them. But these big headlining acts, they're attracting people that are just drawn by the hype, just drawn by the name. And there's nothing really that will give you anything. It's kind of like, you know what it's like? It's like when you watch the TV news and they say, wow, the tax just went up on soda drinks. Let's go to people on the street. And they have somebody that goes and asks them, just random people on the street. And they go, and these people are talking. And you're thinking to yourself, this isn't telling me anything. This is telling me someone else's opinion. I don't care. Oh, but the news organization, I was listening to a show today by Ken Rudin called The Political Junkie. And on it, he paid homage to someone who recently passed away. Let's see. It is was it? No. Oh shoot! It doesn't have the name right here. But because he has a brand new one. Oh, this one just came out. Let's see. The good Bob Fuss. Sorry, it took me forever. I had like 80 paragraphs I just had to read. Bob Fuss, who spent 40 years in radio, who wrote a wonderful book chronicling his career called "Kidnapped by Nuns." Bob, he passed away recently at the age of 64 of leukemia. Bob spent his entire radio career in crutches. He was handy-capable. I think people, I don't like the term disability because in a sense, when you have to deal with a disability, it only uplifts all your other abilities because you've got to compensate. So your body improves other abilities that you have way beyond what someone who is not disabled would have. So there's got the uber ability is what you have at that point. And so Bob Fuss had that. Bob was able to do his entire radio career on crutches, like in the field. He would go and interview the Pope. He was somewhere where I think Pope was in Mexico. One of the popes, maybe it was Pope John Paul. Was that the Polish one? John Paul, wasn't it? Bob Fuss went to interview him, and he went to the arena where the Pope was, and these nuns direct him to go to this one area. You want to talk to the Pope? Okay. They thought Bob wanted to be blessed by the Pope because, he's in crutches, perhaps, he's going to join all the other... So they led him to this group of other disabled people, thinking that he wanted to be with that group that wanted to be blessed by the Pope. So he called his book Kidnapped by Nuns because it was a story that followed him then throughout his career. Bob Fuss brought up the whole point about these things you see on the TV news, and you sometimes hear it on the radio, where they take the man on the street, where they go onto the street and ask the question, what do you think of blank, whatever the pertinent topic is of the day. And for people, the managers of news stations, as Bob was saying in this interview, love that because it puts a human face on a subject. And people like to see other people. Maybe that person that got on the news knows like 20 people that they're going to call up and say, you got to watch the news. So bam, you just boosted your ratings. In any event, they love it. I hate it. I think it's just a piece of fluff that does nothing for a news story. The facts give you what you need in the news story. So that's what I wanted to mention. And added value sucks. And then speaking of the elections that happened recently, I spoke with a guy who is a voter who used a spreadsheet of endorsements. So he had all of the candidates and then a spreadsheet of the endorsements that I guess a friend of his made. And so he was like, okay, well, this candidate has all these endorsements, so I'm going to vote for that person. Oh, and he was very anti-Dianne Feinstein, this guy. And he talked really loud, and we were in a coffee place, and he was talking louder than he should. So I don't know what that was about, but yes. And that's about it for today's Mike's Daily Podcast. We got one other news story, that is, that I guess that we could just mention that the hurricanes and typhoons are slowing down, but increasing damage now around Florida. It appears a new study by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has found that over the past 7 decades, tropical cyclones have slowed down near coastlines around the world. The findings describe a clear link between global warming and the behavior of these severe storms. This, according to the LA Times, with potentially devastating consequences for the people that live near them. According to overwhelming scientific consensus, the climbing average global temperature over the past century has been fueled largely by human activities that have released heat-trapping greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Among its negative effects, that rising heat has been linked to the melting of glaciers, the creeping rise of oceans, the bleaching of coral, the spread of human disease, and the worsening of drought. Pestilence, possibly, you could sum it up with. Or not. Scientists have also been trying to understand the link between global warming and the behavior of extreme weather events, such as the hurricanes that pound the Atlantic coastlines during the summer and fall. I'll be on an Atlantic coastline in August, and I'm hoping that that won't be the case. Someone from the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, near where I live, said that there's one clear physical link. For every 1 degree Celsius rise in temperature, the atmosphere is able to hold 7% more moisture. That means that when it does finally rain, there's a lot more water coming down, which could raise the risk of flooding. Melania Trump. I was talking with my lovely lady friend about her today, and the fact that she disappeared for quite a while. She did show up yesterday for something that was I think that was about the hurricanes. And she showed up for that, but she had disappeared for a while. She had supposedly something done with her kidney. She had some kind of surgery done with her kidney. But I was listening to NPR today. They were discussing what exactly is her big initiative. First ladies have big initiatives. We had Michelle Obama last year with the getting you moving and healthy and all about health and stuff. And that was something she undertook. She got going early on within the first year of being the first lady. But Melania Trump, not so much. And it's taken her over a year to get started. And what it is having to do with kids. That's all we know. It has to do with helping the kids. Her initiative, her focus is the children. So what is that? She's really big on her son. What's his name? Baron von Stubing. I don't know what his name is, his full name. I don't look this stuff up, even though I have a computer in front of me. I can't, because I just went outside a cafe anyway, and I don't have the computer. The computer's no longer in front of me. Neither is a bottle. A bottle's not in front of me either, and I don't have a frontal lobotomy, though at the moment I feel like I do. And then Bill Clinton is making the rounds. And that's not good. The guy wrote a book with, is it John Patterson? Some Patterson guy. Ken Patterson. Brian Patterson. Something like that. He's written books. So they've written a book, like a mystery novel president. He's like a superhero, or he gets kidnapped. Something like that. And Bill Clinton is going around and he's getting asked the questions. The Me Too movement is now in full force, and they want to know what's going on with him. They want to know what he did. And Bill Clinton is responding, I've solved all those questions. I've answered all those questions. I have apologized to all those people. To her. Meaning the Lewinsky lady. So, and Monica Lewinsky has chimed in on the Me Too movement saying that yes, he did take advantage of her. And whatever. I'm not going to defend Bill Clinton because he always kind of creeped me out, but I do remember there was a time in the 90s we needed him because there was all kinds of craziness going on the Republican side. You had the Newt Gingriches, and they just were not doing, and Bill brought us a surplus, so I don't like the whole bashing Bill Clinton, the politician, not exactly the man, is now we're murky, now we're not really wanting to defend him, now it's but yeah, he did some good things and he did some really ridiculously stupid things. So that being said, that's the end of the show. I just don't want to see or hear from Bill Clinton. And he was on NPR, and it sucks for NPR because they try and interview him and they want to ask him all the questions. And everybody wants to ask him all the big questions. And at some point they can't because he's going to walk out or become evasive and defensive and all that. The media. Okay, that being said, that's all I had to say. That's all. That's it. That's all. As we wrap up the show referencing a Genesis song. And we tell you the next show will have Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. You can chime in with your thoughts. You can call Cafe Anyway. Leave a message on our phone machine thing. Call on the banana phone if you would like.
Ring, 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 banana phone.
And that number is 336-MM-DAILY. That's 336-MM-DAILY. Check out the website, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. And Ariel will tell you more about that right now.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.
I say I didn't give you a podcast picture or tell you what it was. The podcast picture, I say, is at the downtown Hayward in the City Hall area. They've got this cool little fountain, and a lot of fountains in California are off because everyone is like, oh, drought, oh, it's no more rain, oh, we're going to all die. But this is a fountain that is still belching water upwards, and Basil stood on this fountain, and you can see that in downtown Hayward. Took this on Monday. See it now at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Thanks, Basil.